Well, good Monday morning to you. Welcome to our Monday morning live edition of the Doctor's Nutrition Show. I'm your host, Jim Tabor, along with Doctors Jim and Janine Fox from Doctor's Nutrition, located on Callan-Lorraine Road in Gulfport, just south of Pass Road. We do this every Monday morning. It is a live call-in show, so we usually have a topic that which we invite you to call in and ask questions regarding that topic. Or if there's something else been on your mind for the past week since last week's show that you wanted to call in about, please feel free to do so. 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. Our phone lines are open because this show is all about trying to help you live a healthier lifestyle. Now, this morning's show probably could say it's probably more so directed towards women.
Well, yeah, they're the only ones that actually
only ones that actually could have this problem.
Yeah.
And we're talking about.
But I mean, the women having PCOS can affect the men they're around.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, yes.
So,
definitely.
I mean, I do say that.
Yeah, been there,
No
done
doubt
that.
about it. No doubt.
Polycystic ovary syndrome. What is polycystic ovary syndrome?
Well, it's a problem that happens with some of these females where the ovary starts putting out too much of the androgens, or the male sex hormones, specifically testosterone and so on, and it just really messes up the menstrual cycle. I mean, it just totally goes to pot, so to speak, and causes a lot of problems like infertility, just irregular menstrual cycles, just all sorts of really unwanted things.
Yeah, it does a lot of things. Last week we had talked about childhood obesity, and we see this go along with it, and we're seeing a lot of people younger and younger with the PCOS. And of course, because any girls, once they start their cycle, you can start seeing some of the problems with it. Mm-hmm. And we're seeing more and more of the overweight teenagers, and that is one of the things that makes it more likely to have PCOS, is actually to have insulin resistance.
Well, I mean, people that have obesity, like going back again to last week, at such an early age in life, put themselves up for having a lot more health issues down
as
the
a whole.
line.
No doubt.
And actually, for PCOS, you do not have to be overweight to have it. Now, we do see some little bitty skinny girls that have it.
Yeah.
I just say probably the American diet is contributing to it, even if you don't gain weight from it. So we really do see a lot, and that's why when we were talking about the childhood obesity last week, we decided just to do a thing on PCOS because we do see so much of it. Mm-hmm. And we see a lot because they do have a lot of problems. I mean, the symptoms.
I was going to say, what happens when a woman has PCOS?
Well, for one of the things, of course, nobody likes is your hair starts thinning and you start growing hair on your face. So, I mean, it's like when women start having that happen, they don't like it.
And in the younger females, they're always complaining about acne.
Acne.
And, you know, it doesn't respond very well to most treatments. And that's the thing, you know, they get to over-the-counter stuff, which normally will take care of it. If it's like a bacterial acne, it'll help control it. Mm-hmm. With PCOS, it doesn't. Nothing phases it because it is hormonally driven. And that is, you know, that's one of the key signs.
Right.
You know, you get these young females and they come in and they're having acne and nothing phases.
Like I said, there's acne, hair loss, facial hair, mood swings, irregular cycles, or no cycle at all.
Right.
Or infertility. That's when we see a lot of them because they'll come to us, you know, because we do help a lot of people with the fertility, and they've heard that we help people, so they come in for that, but it ends up being it's the PCOS patterns that actually is causing the problem.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, you know, but we do see a lot of it. I mean, it's not just something that you never see.
Well, how do you know if you have it?
Well, testing is, I mean, the big thing is what we see on testing, because we do a lot of the lab work. DHEA is one of your androgens. And of course, stress makes a lot of people's low, but somebody with PCOS, it's going to be high. So when you see a pattern on the hormones, it typically looks like high DHEA, high testosterone, low progesterone, and normal to high estrogen. So when you see those patterns along with the symptoms, you know, ooh, this looks like it's PCOS.
And a lot of times, and a lot of those females too will have one of the things that's been linked to it, and when they went back to the weight gain and everything, they call it hyperinsulinemia, too much insulin. Mm-hmm. And this hyperinsulinemia actually triggers one of the cells in the ovary called the theca cell to actually produce more of these androgens. And that can happen in a female who's not necessarily overweight or at all. You know, if that theca cell starts putting out too much androgens, then, you know, okay, you wind up with a pattern baldness, you wind up with all these other things that you don't want, and that's kind of causing a problem. And it's back to the, you know, like she said, back to the American diet. And it really is, the SAD, or the standard American diet, really is sad. And for more than one reason. I mean, we could probably stay on the air for 2 hours talking about that and just talking about how really bad it is, and people don't pay attention to it. They just blatantly go about life, eating whatever else is, whatever's on advertised, just.
That's why we're seeing more and more problems in younger people.
Yeah. Is
because they've had this diet their whole lives.
Right.
And so they are having problems at a much younger age in the PCOS. Now, to confirm, technically PCOS is the polycystic ovaries. So you have multiple cysts on the ovaries. That cannot be seen by lab work.
No.
That's usually, if we see the patterns on lab work, we'll recommend them go to their OBGYN and have an ultrasound. And that's kind of where you see it. Although sometimes you'll have people that have every symptom, every lab work look like it, but yet they don't find the actual cyst on the ovaries.
But the ultrasound can only pick up so much. I mean, there's only so much definition it can pick up. Yeah.
And if you don't catch it at the right time of the month, sometimes you don't have the cyst as usual. But like I said, we do see a lot of it, and one of the reasons we see tons of people come in is the infertility part of it as well.
Yeah.
Once they get into their 20s and they are trying to get pregnant.
Right.
So that does cause problems.
That might be an idea for a future show on fertility.
Fertility.
Well, that's kind of what
we're seeing more and more, both male and female infertility. When you start look, male sperm count's down way lower than it used to be.
And again, it's the diet.
And they know that.
Well, it's the chemicals in the diet.
And the chemicals in the diet.
Right.
That's one of the big issues is chemicals in the diet and hyperinsulinemia. All right, remember that term, hyperinsulinemia. Too much insulin. And that's caused from too many carbohydrates.
And too much sugar.
And sugar. Well, sugar specifically, but just too many carbohydrates in general. The pizzas, and so on like that. Everything that's just loaded with, they're good, don't get me wrong. But it's a matter of that's being the standard diet. In other words,
all the things that you like but aren't good for you.
Well, yeah.
Right.
Well, if you do it once in a while, that's one thing.
Not where you do it. People are doing it day in, day out, 2 or 3 times a day.
Yeah.
And that does get to be a problem.
Yeah, that's when it becomes a problem. It's when when you don't just do it occasionally, we'll go out and get a pizza, or occasionally you'll go do this. It's when you do it day in, day out. That's when it becomes a real issue. And that's what we see. Because you can ask them about their diet. Well, I eat pretty good. I've never had anybody come in and say, well, I eat like crap, okay?
Occasionally
they'll say that, they know, okay, they understand, they know, but mostly they don't. They tell you, oh, I eat a pretty good diet. Okay, let's go through a day in the life of, and at the end of the day, you're like, okay, this is not doing too hot.
Nope, you're not. 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. We're talking about polycystic ovary syndrome this morning. If you have any questions regarding that or any other questions regarding your health, pick up the phone, give us a call. We're going to take a break 8 minutes after 9 o'clock. And welcome back. We're talking about polycystic ovary syndrome this morning on the Doctor's Nutrition Show. It's 10 minutes after 9 o'clock. Our phone lines are open at 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. We're talking about diet. Talk about genetics. Is it genetic?
Well, it's the predisposition for its genetic.
Yes.
In other words, what you have to understand about genetics is genetics doesn't necessarily make us have things, okay? Mm-hmm. Diseases like polycystic ovaries, diabetes, things like that. That is epigenetics. Our genetics make us predisposed to it. So some people say, well, I don't eat many carbohydrates. And if you're predisposed because of your genetics, you may not be able to eat very little at all. And it's specifically certain types of those. I'm one of them. My genetics would have me being diabetic real quick. And so I have to be extraordinarily strict on carbohydrate intake and types of carbohydrate intake, complex only. So that's just the way the world works. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, these females that have that predisposition, it just makes it very tough on them.
Yeah, definitely they're predisposed to it, and then having a diet that's not great makes a difference. And anybody that has PCOS then is predisposed later in life for being diabetic. Right. Up to 75% of the people with PCOS have a sugar handling problem and have the hyperinsulinemia that he talks about. Mm-hmm. There's that few percentage that they say they're really not sure what would cause it otherwise. But there's probably, they might not show all the factors, but it probably in some way is still the diet. Mm-hmm. That's what we find, because even the ones that come in that really don't fit, the mold, they still respond to the same supplements and diet as the ones that actually don't.
Are there any, excuse me, are there any changes that you can make to help it?
Yes. Definitely diet change. I mean, that's number one.
That's huge.
Number one is and go on a real food diet. The packaged processed food is the worst thing you can do, because not only do you get the high sugars and the high carbohydrates and things like that, you get the chemicals. And the chemicals are endocrine disruptors. And an endocrine disruptor actually changes the way the body produces the hormones.
Or uses them,
or lack of them. So there's no doubt that diet change, and even a real food diet, I mean, just if it ain't real, if it's in a package, don't eat it. I mean, that's kind of what a real food diet is. They've definitely done studies that show the Mediterranean diet to be one of the better diets for it. But of course, what do you have in a Mediterranean diet? Real food. It is not packaged and processed. Nothing's already pre-done and pre-made. So eating, lean meat and vegetables and nuts and seeds and just a little bit of fruit, and not overdoing the fruit because of the sugar. And, if you do grains, make it whole grains and make it, there's a lot of things that can go into it. But the Mediterranean diet is probably one of the better diets for it. Some people even have to be stricter on the carbs, though, than that. Some people can't do the grains if the problem is severe. And you do see different severities of the problem. And like
really
I said,
do.
You do.
And, when we talk about the susceptibility to it through the genetics and so on, everybody's different. I mean, and every particular person is different. And what you can tolerate and what you can't tolerate, what your body can tolerate and what it can't tolerate, it's individual. So, I don't care what your brother and sister can do. It's what you can do.
Right. And also other changes is exercise.
Yeah.
Exercise has always been shown to help insulin resistance. So that is one thing that you can do is exercise. You can also, like I said, other than diet and exercise, make sure you get enough sleep, because sleep plays a huge role in how the body processes things.
Right.
So it's all of these things that we talk about to help. This helps almost all health issues, because just getting your body in a better overall state.
Yeah, like things like intermittent fasting, forcing your body to use the carbohydrates and stuff that it's taking in first. That's one of the key problems we get into in the American diet, is we get so many carbs so often that our body can't really use them all, so it starts storing them, and they start doing weird things to things like the ovaries, testicles, and for the guys. And so you wind up, and that's what we have. And then you throw in all the chemicals in the food supply, boy, it really makes a mess out of things.
And when we have people come in that have already got the problem, there's definitely supplements that you can do to actually help. We always use something called DIM, diindolylmethane, and it just actually triggers the ovaries to make better progesterone. It also because that's one thing that is usually completely lacking. That's why the cycle stops, is the lack of progesterone. Now, we do have natural progesterone. We try, especially in young girls, to make them produce their own first. Now, if it's somebody older and they're not producing it and we can't make them produce it with the DIM, maybe we will use the natural progesterone. But also, we have a product called MyoVitex, which is the myoinositol and the chastity tree, which is also called Vitex, is good for the ovaries. And at the same time, that product has the chromium and your alpha lipoic acid and CoQ10, which does help with the insulin resistance itself. So that product is really good for people with PCOS.
Left unchecked, how detrimental could it be?
Well, they end up getting more and more overweight. They end up having more and more just problems, and then the diabetes that comes later.
Well,
and that's actually
and a lot of them end up with hysterectomy at a young age.
Yeah.
I mean, you see some, if they get bad enough, the OB will throw up their hands and say, well, let's just take everything out.
Yeah.
Does that fix anything? Not really. It just simply takes
still
off.
insulin resistant.
You're still insulin resistant. You still have all these other things going on. You just don't have the target organ, ovaries and so on, to kind of get involved in it. But the other stuff's going on. So yeah, it really doesn't really fix anything. It makes some of the symptoms go away, and it makes some of them worse.
Yeah. But it doesn't help. It doesn't keep you from being diabetic later.
No.
And that is one of the big things. If you have this problem, and actually if you have diabetes a lot in your family, then you're one that really should be doing stuff like this anyway, because you want to prevent things from happening. And there's even one of the things that we use for diabetes called berberine that also has a lot of good research for PCOS. Mm-hmm. And it actually helps with insulin resistance. So because it helps with insulin resistance, then it actually helps with PCOS. So when you really, it's really tied to sugar. And what's bad is a lot of these girls that come in, they're not told that. They have no idea.
Really?
They're just told they have PCOS, and
one of the problems in medicine
they just
today,
don't tell them how to change it.
Yeah, one of the problems we have in medicine today is they don't look for the cause. You know, I'm sorry, but you know, we got a lot of friends in the medical profession too, and you know, I tell them the same thing when I talk to them. I say, look, you got to stop and look for the cause. You know, why does this person have this problem? What is the reason that this person developed this problem? There's a reason behind it. It's not that they're lacking in the drugs, it's that there's some sort of metabolic problem going on. The metabolic problems and metabolic issues are the huge.
Yeah.
Okay, 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. Our phone lines are open. We've got our final break coming up in just a moment. It's 18 minutes after 9 o'clock. We're talking about polycystic ovary syndrome. We'll be back with this week's special. And welcome back. It's 20 minutes after 9 o'clock, our final segment this morning on our Doctor's Nutrition Show, talking about PCOS, Polycystic Ovary Syndrome. 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. Let's go ahead and look at what the deal of the special of the week is.
The MyoVitex, which we had mentioned it a few minutes ago, on being really good to help with the ovary production, and it's real good for healthy ovaries. It also has your chromium and alpha lipoic, which does help with the hyperinsulinemia. So it's kind of an overall product that we've specifically put together kind of for PCOS. So it's really, that's what it's for. And so that's a really good thing to take, and along with possibly the DIM and even the berberine. But we always say first is lifestyle change, diet change, go to a real food diet, exercise. All that can make a difference in the PCOS.
And you mentioned the Mediterranean diet.
The Mediterranean.
Well, that's a really
that's
good
just
diet.
It's a real food diet. And people think, oh, I eat real food. Well, no, if it's packaged and processed or got at a fast food joint, it's not real food. You don't know what they've done to it.
I stress to people a lot about starting to read labels, okay? Because if you read the labels, you'll start realizing, like, whoa, I don't want to eat this. I'm not sure what that is, but I don't think it's food, you know? And so, you know, you need to, and you see a lot of them nowadays, you're going to see something on there, it's on the label, and it's kind of thing out there. It's called bioengineered food. Thank Bill Gates for that, but you know, here we go. You know, we're talking about people that are making bioengineered food products. That's sort of like the fake meat, you know, that they're making. You know, you know, the Israelis have got to where they can actually grow a steak in a lab. Okay. Yeah, right. That's what I said. No, I think
grow a steak, not a cow.
That's actually coming.
It's coming.
That's coming.
And you know, and I think we need to be prepared for that. You know, that okay, that's not going to be
vegetarian.
Well, yeah, or something, right?
Yeah.
No, just make sure you get real meat.
Real meat.
Yeah, you make sure you get the real stuff.
Yeah, and it's harder to get.
But the packaged processed stuff, I mean, it's like if they can make it sit shelf stable for months, what is in it to make it do that?
Years.
And that is actually
like Twinkies.
Yeah,
Twinkies.
that is.
Yeah, they don't go bad. They don't go bad.
That changes stuff in you, and the high fructose corn syrup. I had a lady just the other day.
I was just thinking about that.
Actually,
Janine.
say, man, you can't hardly read a label without having that. Well, it's better than it used to be because people were getting smarter, so they're starting to change some because of that. But there's still many things out there with it.
Yeah,
you do not want that. That makes the worst hyperinsulinemia that you can have.
Yeah.
And that's for everybody, not just somebody with PCOS. So you really, really want to get off it. You should never have high fructose corn syrup. No. And I say never.
It throws it just throws a wrench in the works there for sure. And it's just not good for you. But you know, that's back to the food supply. You know, we've seen people that basically we told them, okay, clean up your diet. Don't eat anything that you within possibility. Don't eat anything that's not organic. And they come back and say, you know, I feel much better. I'm doing good. Great. And you know, that's something that we have to think about. You know, if you can actually do something like that, and we've had a lot of people do that over the years. I mean, a lot of people just say, look, I don't care what it is, limit yourself to that organic foods. And you know,
and you are actually finding more and more of it in the grocery stores.
You're seeing more and more of it because the public is wanting more and more of it.
Right.
The public decides, hey, I don't really want that bioengineered food. I'm sorry. And they'll pay the little premium. You know, and people say, well, yeah, that organic food is so expensive. What you're paying for with organic food is not what you're getting in it, it's what you're not getting in it. You're not getting the chemicals, you're not getting the processed problems that you're getting. So you're getting much better, cleaner food, stuff your body knows how to.
What's your health worth?
And then,
Right.
well, nowadays it is not, and I mean not cheaper to go to fast food restaurants that even cook organic.
Yeah.
It's cheaper to cook organic at home
Yeah.
than it is to go out and eat junk. It really is. I mean, I can't believe what the cost of things are getting, and everybody's seen that.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, you can definitely cook at home cheaper, and you can cook organic at home cheaper than going out. So that is something that you want to start doing more of. Prep on the weekends, have food already ready for the week. And that's what
Yeah.
we do. Yeah.
Kind of what you have to do. You
We
know,
don't just go grab something.
Like I say, our health is worth
Well, I'm
something.
guilty
I'll
of
go
that.
without eating.
Yeah.
As we were mentioning before we came on the air this morning
Yeah.
that I've gained about 15
Yeah.
pounds here, so.
Yeah.
Eating
And
things
Janine
you
points
shouldn't.
out, yep, and I see right where it's at too, and it's the truth. It really is the truth, because I've kind of fell off the wagon as far as eating as healthy as I used to, and as easily as I used to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, it's easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's convenience.
Exactly.
People start getting convenience, but you got to take that little extra step
But I
to
did
try
get
to
up
be
this morning
healthier.
within my mind. I'm going to start that intermittent fasting, so I have
Yep.
not had anything to eat since last night.
Okay.
Good.
So and I don't plan on eating anything. I had a cup of coffee, but
Yeah.
That's fine.
until lunchtime today.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things you can do, and if you have PCOS, come see us. We can do the lab work,
Yeah.
and the lab work will tell you a lot. And there's also other nutrients that tend to be deficient. And when you take somebody that has a problem anyway, magnesium a lot of times is a problem with PCOS, but magnesium is a very big problem in most Americans.
Unfortunately.
Vitamin D deficiency. If you are overweight, you don't utilize the D properly, and you tend to not produce it the way you should. So that makes a difference too. So you start getting all these nutrients play a role in it as well. I mean, yeah, there's the main things we talked about for PCOS, but just overall health makes a difference. So getting overall healthy helps with almost any health issue. And you don't want to wait until you become diabetic later, which is actually, if you have PCOS, you probably are predisposed to that.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a real issue, you know. And
Diabetes is a big problem in this country, and we know that.
right.
So I was going to ask, what early warning signs should,
For PCOS?
For PCOS.
Well, it's usually the irregular cycles is probably the first thing they see.
yeah.
I mean, that honestly is the first thing, is that I'm just not regular.
and then they start seeing things like possibly
Like I
the
said,
hair thing,
hair loss,
and then the acne.
facial hair, and
The younger they are, there tends to be more of the acne is one of the first
Yep.
things that they complain about, and then hair loss. You know,
So
that
that's
kind
the
of
time
thing.
to jump on it.
yes.
Yeah, it's time to get started about it, you know. But like I say, we're seeing, like I say, when you look at the chronic conditions that we're seeing in America today, fastest growing chronic condition, and we've talked about it 1,000 times, fatty liver disease, the non-alcoholic fatty liver. Because when I was in school, back when rocks were cooling off, back then we only saw that typically in an alcoholic. But now we're seeing it's the fastest growing chronic condition in America.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's right along with this same thing. It's a sugar handling problem. It goes right back to the diet.
So a lot of your health, a lot of your issues in health go back to too much sugar in the diet.
Yeah.
Well, that pretty much wraps up the show for today. Next week is the first of the month, so
Open
it'll
line.
be Open Line Monday. You can call in
Yeah.
with any questions regarding anything with your health, and of course, let you know that you never need an appointment when you go by Doctor's Nutrition. There's never a charge for a consult or anything like that. And of course, one of the greatest things that you can start out with is blood work.
Right.
I always recommend that. Get some blood work done. And of course, if you do go in on an early morning between 8 and 10 to get that done, you need to be sure that you fast the night before.
Yes. Drink plenty of water, but just,
We'll always
put it-
remind you when you talk to us before you go. So.
Oh yeah.
There you go. Anyway, you can also find a lot of information on doctorsnutrition.com. Hope you have a wonderful week, and we'll see you back next Monday morning here on WLOX CBS.
For more information on highlighting your business and services on Healthy Living South Mississippi, contact Jim Tabor at 896-1313.